My name is Elijah. For 40 years, I built skyscrapers in Dallas, and I know everything there is to know about breaking points. But today, the most dangerous structure in America isn't a bridge over the Mississippi, it's the attempt to strike up a conversation with a female stranger. I'm sitting in Blue Bottle Coffee in Chicago. The drizzle outside the window reminds me of old television static. The coffee shop hums, the clatter of MacBook keys, orders for oat milk lattes, the smell of burnt beans docked 2 tables away sat a woman. She was about my age, with those fine lines around her eyes that we call laugh lines in the States, though they are more often about tears. She was reading Joan Didion. Once, I would have approached her, but today, it's not romance that clicks on in my head. It's a security protocol. In a world of cancel culture, my approach isn't a flirtation, it's a risk of total reputational loss. I don't see a woman. I see a potential catastrophe. One wrong look, and my daughters would blush at the headlines on social media. The math is brutal. The gain is zero. The risk is my entire life. I remember Ben, my younger colleague from the architecture firm. Last week, he walked into my office, closed the door, and downed a glass of water in one gulp. Elijah, he said, Sarah from marketing complained to HR because I said she had a nice dress. The kid is 26, built like an athlete, but his eyes held the terror of a hunted animal. This is modern America, sterile, safe, and absolutely dead to feelings. In the office, we are now afraid to get into an elevator alone with a woman. We joke about it in bars, but it's the laughter of men on the gallows. This is a post-initiative society. If young Ben is afraid, what am I to do? The old white man who is guilty by default of everything. My hands built hospitals, but now they seem like dangerous weapons to me if I simply dare to touch someone's palm. We have learned to build perfect walls between each other, and I am a master of that architecture. In America, we are taught to invest, but no one tells you what to do when the emotional market crashed faster than stocks during a depression. I opened my journal and did what I do best: an inventory. For the last 10 years, I was the engine. I planned dinners at Alinea, I selected the wines, I was the first to text after a date. I was an investor in a bottomless pit of other people's expectations. I realized, if I stop rowing, this boat goes under in a minute. In the US, women of my generation are often looking not for a partner, but for an improved version of their ex or a sponsor for their emotional debts. They expect me to entertain them while they scroll through Instagram. My energy is not an unlimited credit line. At 65, every hour is a gold bar, and I no longer want to spend those bars on people who don't even know how to say thank you without sarcasm. My home is my sanitary cordon. After a divorce that cost me half my wealth and 3 years of therapy, I built myself a fortress. It smells of old wood and coffee here. There is no walking on eggshells. In America, a man without a woman is considered broken, but I feel like a person who has finally stepped out of a noisy casino into the fresh air. I am not lonely. I am free. My neighbors in Connecticut are constantly trying to set me up with someone. Elijah, she's so energetic, they say. What I hear is, she will destroy your schedule and your silence. I don't need validation from another person to know that I exist. I no longer look for my reflection in others' eyes, because those eyes are often too clouded by their own needs. My peace is the most expensive thing I've bought in my life, and I won't pawn it for an illusion of closeness. The woman in the coffee shop closed her book. For a moment, our eyes met. There was a challenge in her gaze, or perhaps just curiosity. The old Elijah would have stood up and taken a step. The new Elijah simply put on his cashmere scarf. It wasn't a defeat, it was evolution. I'm not giving up, I simply changed the battlefield. In the US, we say, know when to fold them. I stepped out into the Chicago rain, feeling a strange lightness. I am no longer a hunter. I am no longer a volunteer in a game where I have to pay for the right to be heard. My life is now a project where I am my own client. I'm driving home, where silence, my blueprints, and a peace that cannot be bought await me. One chose myself, and it was the most accurate calculation of my life. I drive home in my Lincoln Navigator. The rain drums against the roof, creating a rhythm that soothes better than any therapist. I look at the people standing at the bus stops. Every head is bowed over a smartphone screen. This is the new American posture. We no longer look each other in the eye. We look at pixels. I tried dating apps once. It was like trying to buy spare parts for a vintage airplane on Amazon. You scroll through faces like a catalog of discounted goods. The women there don't want Elijah. They want an image they can edit to fit their needs. They aren't looking for a person. They are looking for a function. I realized that in this digital casino, the chances of winning something real are lower than surviving a fall from one of my skyscrapers. I deleted my profile. I'd rather be a ghost in the real world than a commodity in a virtual one. In America, we say, get it in writing. But how do you put sincerity in writing? My last date was at a rooftop restaurant. She was a lawyer. The entire evening, I felt as if I were under cross-examination. Every word I spoke was weighed on the scales of political correctness. Elijah, don't you think your comment about 1950s architecture has patriarchal undertones? She asked, without looking up from her salad. In that moment, I realized romance in the U.S. is dead, slaughtered by lawyers and sociologists. We no longer look for a spark. We look for incriminating evidence. I politely paid the bill, the last contract I was willing to sign. My silence is not a protest. It is a refusal to participate in a lawsuit disguised as a date. Being an older man in the U.S. is like having the superpower of invisibility. If you don't take action, the world stops noticing you. At first, it was frightening. Now, it is my favorite luxury. I walk through Central Park when I'm in New York and simply observe the chaos. I see young men trying to impress women, spending money they don't have on things they don't need. They are like actors in a play that no one is watching. And me, I'm just a spectator in the front row. I don't need to play the role of the alpha male or the successful gentleman. I am simply Elijah, a man who knows the smell of fresh sawdust and the sound of silence in the woods. My invisibility is my freedom from the expectations of others. I have a daughter. She often asks, Dad, why don't you see anyone? You're such a great guy. I look at her and see the future of America. She is strong, independent, but she too is part of this new world where a man is either a threat or a resource. I don't want her to see her father in the role of a beggar. I want her to know that a man can be whole on his own. My withdrawal from the hunt is my lesson for her. I am leaving her more than just real estate or bank accounts. I am leaving her the example of a man who refused to be a victim of circumstance. I am not looking for a woman to complete me. I am already full, and that knowledge is the most valuable genetic code I can pass on to her. I pull up to my house. It sits on a hill, far from the city noise. The geometry of its lines soothes my vision. There are no accidents here. Everything from the choice of door handles to the pitch of the roof was my decision. I get out of the car and breathe in the night air. Somewhere in the distance, a highway hums, but here, in my world, silence reigns. It is not an empty silence. It is filled with the meaning of my memories, my projects, and my dignity. Tomorrow, I will build again. I will calculate loads again. But I will never again calculate on someone else making my life happy. I am the architect of my own peace. And on this foundation, I will build the rest of my days. In America, we say you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But in the social life of modern Chicago, it's the exact opposite. You are guilty simply because you exist within a certain status. As an older man with some level of wealth, I constantly feel this invisible X-ray upon me. When I step into an elevator with a young woman, I automatically pull out my phone and start focusedly searching for something. It's not politeness. It's a survival strategy. It's a way of saying, look, my hands are busy, my eyes are occupied. I am not a threat. This constant need to prove your safety is more exhausting than a 10-hour workday on a construction site. We, the men of my generation, grew up in a culture where initiative was a virtue. Now, it has become suspicious. I see my friends trying to play by the new rules, but these rules are written in invisible ink that only appears once you've already made a mistake. It's like designing a building where the safety standards change right in the middle of pouring the concrete. I decided that the best way not to break the rules is to stay off the field entirely. My absence from the game isn't a surrender. It is my loudest protest against a world that fears sincerity more than it fears loneliness. The American dream always sold us a picture, a house, a white picket fence, and someone holding your hand in the twilight of your years. But no one told us about the maintenance costs of that illusion. I look at my old blueprints, they are perfect. But real buildings always require repairs. Similarly, relationships at my age often turn into an endless capital renovation of someone else's fractured fate. I once met a woman at a golf club. She was elegant and successful, but by the 5th minute of the conversation, she began laying out the technical specifications of our possible future. She wasn't looking for a partner. She was looking for a contractor to perform work on her personal comfort. In that moment, I felt an incredible fatigue. I realized that my margin of safety for such projects was depleted. I no longer want to be someone's successful closure of a gestalt. I closed my internal tender for a partner. When I returned home and shut the heavy oak doors behind me, I felt a true victory for the first time in years. It was the sound of silence that no one was going to disturb with their demands. At the end of the day in America, everything comes down to the balance sheet. What did you put in, and what did you get out? For many years, I invested emotions into the expectations of others, hoping for dividends in the form of warmth and understanding. But the market proved too volatile. Now, I only invest in what is under my control, my knowledge, my physical health, and the peace of my evenings. When I walk down the street, I see young guys desperately trying to buy the attention of women with their expensive watches or sports cars. I want to walk up to them and say, "Boys, you aren't buying love. You're buying the lease on someone else's presence, and believe me, the price of the lease will only go up." But I remain silent. Everyone must walk their own path of disappointment to finally find this silent dividend of self-sufficiency. I am Elijah, and I have finally become the owner of 100% of the shares of my own life. It is the best deal I have ever closed on this earth.